This is Boyd coming to you from Game Castle College Park. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about how to play in a Catan National Championship Qualifier. Let's start with the exciting stuff, prizing. The winner obviously is going to get a seat at the Catan National Championship. And finally, a delightful little Catan Wheat Animal Catanimal pin. Finalists each get a set of fluorescent game pieces and one fall tile set. Top 16 players get a Catan Starfarer's Wormhole Scenario card, and the top 32 placers get a discount card to the Catan online store. The Catan World Championship program allows players from around the world to compete in national tournaments, with one of them being crowned the national champion. The easiest way to sign up is at Catan Studios' list of upcoming events on their Facebook page or at the Catan Studios website. In the US, you'll need to participate in and win a qualifier. All the qualifiers then face off against each other in the national championship. To play in a qualifier, you have to be 18 years old or older, a citizen or legal resident of the country you wish to compete in. Qualifier winners cannot play in another qualifier, and referees and organizers cannot play in the events that they serve. All the events are going to be a little bit different, but your venue will supply the copies of Catan for you, and they will all be the same edition, either 4th edition Catan or 5th edition Catan. However, you will use 5th edition rules no matter what version of the game you have. You'll need at least 16 attendees for a valid tournament result, and you'll want one or more judges to help adjudicate rules disputes. If you do need to dispute a rule, immediately request the referee. Failure to do so waives your right to protest whatever happened. A repeated incident of something that was missed before can be brought up again in a new instance. And make sure you've got good cause, because the referee's ruling is final. Referees can also be brought in to enforce time limits in games where the organizer or players request it. Players must make the request at the beginning of the game, but the organizer can introduce a time limit at any time. Time turns are 3 minutes long, no ending a game early, and the game does not end until someone reaches 10 points. In the preliminary rounds, you're going to usually have 3 rounds of round-robin style play against opponents. Your first round is paired randomly, either using the Best Coast Pairings app or by a manual method. The second and third rounds will prioritize playing different opponents, sitting in different seat positions, and ensuring players are not seated with friends or family members. The board will be set up by the organizers before each round. During the qualifier, each table plays on the same board setup. Board setups change across each game so that all the tables are playing a different board each round. But during that round, all tables will play with the same setup. There's going to be a resource banker, and it's going to be the starting player unless they just don't want to do it. The starting player doesn't want to. The table either elects another player to be the resource banker, or a judge will do it. For the final, a judge must act as the resource banker and handle the cards. Players must announce what they are doing before awarding cards to themselves or paying any resources into the bank. Players may agree to create a second set of resource piles for ease. Players may also agree to let everyone hand in their resource cards to the bank and take from the bank on their own. All game materials must be kept above the table at all times and visible to the other players. No hiding your development or resource cards. The number of cards in anyone's hand is public information, and you must share it upon request. Newly obtained development cards must be kept separate from those a player already had and could use on this turn. Players may choose to log the number of times an event occurs or how the dice roll over the course of the game. If they do, the following must happen. The player must publicly announce that they are doing it, the organizers must be notified, and organizers must switch out the dice between games. A turn begins when a player receives the dice. A player may play development cards before rolling, but no other actions are permitted. Once the dice are rolled, both dice must have a flat and non-obscured result for an official roll. Rolls that come off the table into a cup or etc. require a reroll. A die is cocked if you cannot balance the other die on top of it without it sliding off. If it slides off, reroll both dice. You must resolve any dice effects before any other actions can occur. If for some reason there are not enough resource cards of a given type available to give all of that type that should go out, none go out. For example, if you roll an 8 and it triggers wood for player A who has a city, player B who has a settlement, and sheep for player C who has a sea, and there are only 2 wood available, but the rolls should distribute 3. No wood will be distributed. This does not affect the distribution of sheep that player C gets for their city, however. If there is only one player who is supposed to receive that type of resource, they instead get everything that's left in reserve. For the robber goes into effect immediately. There's no grace period, and the robber may be returned to the desert hex when moving it. Did you forget to move the robber? Well, if it's still your turn, the next question is, have you tried trading with anyone? If no, you can place it on the hex of your choice and steal from someone like normal. If your turn has ended or you've tried trading with anyone, just place the robber on the desert hex. For trading in resource cards, you may not show your resource cards to another player outside of proving that you have the cards that you propose to trade. If you do so, those cards must be made public until the end of that trading and building phase. There is no distinction between trading and building phases. Either or both can happen in any order and intermixed with each other. But each action is individual and is over when completed. Road building isn't over when the road is placed, but when the player indicates that they want to do something else, like play a knight, initiate a trade, etc. Once something goes into the supply, it's spent and not coming back to you. But if that action isn't complete, you could still repurpose what you used it for. So if you're turning in 4 wood for 1 wheat, the 4 wood are gone as soon as they go back to the supply. But you could decide to take 1 brick instead, provided you haven't moved on to a new action, of course. Your robber action is complete when you attempt to take a card from another player. For road building, no roads may be built beyond a settlement or city of another player. You may upgrade a settlement to a city the same turn the settlement is built. To do so, you must have the settlement in your supply to build the settlement. You must then have a city in your supply to build the city. Unlike development cards, harbors are available as soon as they are built. For development cards, victory points count immediately, and your 10th victory point can be used immediately upon drawing it to win the game. But you must wait until your next turn to play other development cards. This means you cannot immediately draw a knight and use that knight to gain the largest army. You must wait until your next turn to play the knight before taking the largest army card. The same applies for road building and the longest road. Winning happens when you reach 10 points, but can only happen on your turn. If you score 10 points but fail to realize it on your turn, you must wait until your next turn to win, assuming you still have 10 points. Scoring is based on your number of wins. If tied, then your total victory points scored across all 3 games is going to be used as the tiebreaker. If still tied, the system uses a cumulative percentage of points scored at your table. This is taken by determining the percentage of total victory points you scored, adding up all 3 percentages across your games. If there are only 3 players at your table, a dummy player is created by averaging the other 3 scores, a 0.4 rounds down and a 0.5 rounds up. This score is included in the calculation only for purposes of cumulative points earned. Do not consider this dummy player for total victory points scored across all 3 games. If still tied after all this, lots will be drawn. What matters here is having the highest score across all 3 rounds. The top 16 players will advance on to the semifinal round. Events with 27 players or fewer may skip the semifinals. A single game is used in the semifinals and finals, and those games are single elimination. Seeding is as indicated below. At each table, players will choose the starting position and seats based on their rank from the preliminaries. If there was a tie in the preliminaries, those players draw lots to determine who has the higher rank. All game setups of the semifinals will be the same game. Moving on to the finals, the top 4 advance. There's a single game for all the marbles, or the island, if you will. Seeding order is based on ranking from the preliminaries, not scoring in the semifinals. Duh, because everyone's a semifinals winner. If there are tied players, the lots they drew in the semifinals determines the order they choose seats in the finals. Winning the final secures your berth at the national championship. Events may award prizes in addition to those in the tournament kit. The only prize that is banned is cash. Thanks for watching, and good luck as you play in the event.